If you're new to RVing, figuring out how to book a campground can be surprisingly confusing because every campground seems to have its own rules, reservation system, and way of doing things. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what to look for before you book, from choosing the right campground and campsite to making sure your RV will actually fit. We'll also talk about reviews, Google Earth, campground fees, cancellation policies, and the things you absolutely don't want to discover after you've already paid. By the end, you'll know how to book a campground with a lot more confidence and definitely some fewer surprises. Every campground has a different booking process. So you might be wondering, how or where do I even make a reservation? And unfortunately, the reality of it is there isn't one simple, clean answer. Every campground has their different reservation procedures, and so unfortunately, there's not one streamlined process. Unless you're using a membership company like KOA or even recreation.gov, those are all fairly standardized, but if you're using just individual campgrounds, they're all going to be a little bit different. Sometimes you have to call, sometimes you can book it online, sometimes you have to email. There's just unfortunately not one clean way to say that you can book every campground. The good news is that after booking a few campgrounds, you're going to get pretty good at it and know what to look for. And I'm going to give you some tips so that when you do book those first few campgrounds, you have a little bit more confidence that you're booking a good one. Personally, I like to book my campgrounds online because generally I'm doing my booking at like 2 or 3 in the morning because I'm a night owl, and that's usually when I have time to really sit down and figure out where we're going to be and how long we want to stay. I love it when RV parks have their online reservation system really well done. Unfortunately, there are those campgrounds that I know that that's like the one we want to stay at, but you have to call to make the reservation, and those are a little bit harder for me to book just because I always forget, and then by the time I remember, they're already closed for the day. As far as emailing, personally, I haven't had good luck with emailing campgrounds. There's definitely been a few times where I haven't been able to get them on the phone or book online, and so I send an email, and I would guess like 9 times out of 10, I don't hear back from them. And unfortunately, I don't know why. And so when you're ready to book your first campground, you just want to make sure that you go to the actual campground's website and look to see what their policies and what their reservation process is, because every campground is different, and you're going to learn real quick how easy it is to book online sometimes, and sometimes how not so easy it is. But it does get easier the more you do it. Research the campground before you book it. So how do you know if a campground is actually going to be good? You can definitely look at Google reviews. Don't just look at the star rating. Look to see what people are actually saying. There's a few key phrases that we just completely stay away from those RV parks. If there's things in there like the sites are really tight, or I didn't feel safe, or it wasn't very clean. 1 or 2 people saying that, I just kind of take with a little bit of a grain of salt. But if you start getting multiple Google reviews like that, then you kind of maybe want to think about going to a different place. There's plenty of RV parks to choose from, and so don't feel like you absolutely have to choose that one. Usually there's always going to be another place nearby, but make sure that you're reading what people are saying about the RV park and take a little bit of it with a grain of salt, because people do love to complain. But after that, if you're not quite sure still, then the next thing I do is I go on Google Earth and I will look at the actual overhead view of the campground. And if people are saying it's too tight and I see a lot of trees, then it's probably going to be too tight because there's too many trees. And so I sort of go through this process of figuring out what area I'm going to go to, then looking to see what campgrounds are in that area. And sometimes it's just an easy Google search like campgrounds near the Badlands in South Dakota. Something like that. And then I start to kind of look on the map, see what they're close to, and then I start to look at the reviews. Probably the first year of RVing, I was really meticulous in doing a ton of research on which campgrounds we were going to be staying at. And I don't know if it was just because I was excited or I was a little bit scared, but it did suck up a lot of my time. I don't think we've ever been to an RV park in our almost 7 years of RVing. I don't think we've ever been to an RV park that I felt really unsafe at, because as I said, if I see those words, unsafe, unclean, then I don't end up staying there. It's really easy to just immediately dismiss those ones and move on to the next one. Once I sort of figure out which area I want to be in, which campground looks good, and I look at the reviews, then I look at Google Earth, that's kind of all I do. And the best part about RVing is if you do end up at a campground that you don't love, maybe it's not quite as clean as you'd like, or it's a little further from the place you thought you were going to be, you're going to be moving on, and so this is not a permanent home, and you can just move on to the next location. One last tip about that is I always look at the campground's website and just look to see how the website is set up. Now, obviously, they're going to be putting their best foot forward and only showing their really good pictures. However, if they have a pretty nice website, the pictures are nice, they've got categories in there that have your rates as well as things to do nearby, which I love to see. And it gives you like the location and then the distance from the RV park. I like stuff like that. And generally, if an RV park is going to go to the trouble to have a nice looking website, they are going to have a nice campground. Don't spend a ton of time really paying attention to what campground you're going to go to, because it is a little bit of a waste of time. Just pick 2 or 3, check those Google reviews, check Google Earth, and then just make your decision. You're only going to be there for a short period of time, and then you'll be moving on to the next location. And every campground is different. And that's kind of one of the wonderful things about this life, is because every week we wake up with a different view, a different location. This one is nice and filled with trees and is beautiful and is pretty quiet. The next one might not have any shade at all, but right now we're enjoying this shade. Make sure your RV fits the site. Before you go and book your first campgrounds, there's a few things of information that you definitely want to make sure that you have. You want to know the length of your RV, and if you're like us where you have a tow behind, we need to know what our trailer length as well as our trailer with our truck length is hooked up, because we want to make sure we can fit the RV and the truck in the same spot. You also want to know what the width of your RV is, and how many slide outs you have, and what the width is once you have those slide outs. Generally, when you call, they will ask you what's the length, what kind of RV do you have? Do you have a Class A, Class B, travel trailer? They'll ask. And then they will ask how long it is. You want to have that number on hand. And then they'll ask if you have any slide outs, and you'll want to tell them passenger or driver. And then they will ask you if you have 30 amp or 50 amp. And you're also going to want to make sure you know that if you're going to need full hookups, electric only, water only, usually it's water and electric. So you want to make sure that you have sort of all that information. Generally, if we're staying only 1 or 2 nights, we don't bother to have the sewer hookups if we can. If we can get a little bit cheaper and not have sewer, then we just won't have sewer hookups. But we do generally like to have water and electricity. And we also really love pull-throughs. Back-ends we can definitely do. We've gotten really good at it. However, there is just a level of comfort knowing that when you get to an RV park, you're going to be doing a pull-through, and you don't have to worry too much about stressing about whether or not the road's going to be really narrow, if you have to ask some neighbor to move their truck so that you can back your rig in. So if there's no price difference, we generally always choose pull-throughs, and sometimes they do mark those up a little bit, but that's up to you if you want to pay that extra amount of money. If we're just going in for the night, we do always ask for a pull-through, and then I ask them to make sure that the site is long enough so that we can leave our truck hooked up. The thing about RVing is every RV is different. Every RVer has different desires of what they want to have. Every campground is different. Every site is different. But you do get into this process where they're going to ask you a list of questions. You just want to make sure you have all that information for them. I also recommend having the license plates of your vehicles. So if you have a trailer and a car, or you have a Class A and a tow behind, you want to make sure you have those license plate numbers with you. They don't always ask for them, but sometimes they do, and it's really nice to just have that information right there with you. And so if you want to have one nice clean place to have all of your RV information, I might recommend the Wandering RV Companion. It is an ebook that I put together that has 30 pages, and you can put all of your RV's information in there. There's a page to keep track of your maintenance and repairs. There's a page to keep track of RV parks and where you're staying, and all the information as far as hookups and things like that. Check the link in the description below if you're interested in that. It is a nice little companion book that I put together that I wish I had when I first started RVing, but it is a great place to keep all of that information contained in one spot. And my last tip about that is if you are unsure, if you're booking online and you're not sure whether or not your rig will fit or if it's going to be a good fit for you, don't hesitate to call. It's really better to be 100% sure of what you're booking before you book it. And so make sure you just give them a quick call, ask them a few questions, and then you can go ahead and book that site and feel more confident about making sure that your rig is going to fit. Because there is nothing worse than showing up at an RV park and realizing that the site that you booked is not going to work for your RV. Not that we've ever been there and done that, but we kind of have. Read the fine print before you book. This is a really important thing for you to know and understand. You want to make sure that you are aware of what you are agreeing to whenever you book a campground. Every campground has their own list of rules, and some of them are as simple as keep your dog on a leash, don't put your mats on the grass, and make sure you're in your site, not like parked in the street or anything. Super easy like that. And then sometimes you have RV parks that have like an entire lawyer written novel of all the things that you're agreeing to. For the most part, the biggest rules that you're agreeing to are quiet hours. Every RV park has quiet hours where you need to make sure that you're not outside blasting music. Usually it's after 10 p.m. and then not early in the mornings. You're also agreeing to things like pet policies. A lot of RV parks just require that your pet be on a leash unless it's in an enclosed area, that you never leave them outside alone. You use the dog park if you want to let them loose. use. You also want to check to make sure that they don't have any restrictions on the dog breeds. There are some RV parks that do have restrictions on what kind of breeds are not allowed, so check that. And then another thing that they might be wanting to know is the year of your RV, because there are some RV parks that have a 10-year rule, or you can get past that 10-year rule if you send them a picture of your rig, and that's just to keep sort of some of the riffraff out. They definitely don't want any Breaking Bad vehicles showing up to their RV park and cooking meth in their campground. But the most important thing that you really want to be making sure that you're agreeing to, or at least you're aware you're agreeing to, is what their cancellation and refund policy is. It drives me crazy that they are all so different. Some of them are really easy, like just call us within 24 hours and you can cancel, no problem. Some of them require 7 days, some are 10 days, some have no refunds allowed at all. And I highly recommend that you steer clear of those RV parks for a couple of reasons. First, there is no life that I know of that needs more flexibility than an RVer. There are things that happen all the time, and so having that flexibility, if something comes up, something breaks, that you can cancel your RV site without losing all of your money is really, I don't even know why campgrounds have those policies, but it drives me crazy, and I really try to not book those if I absolutely don't have to. And so check what the refund policy is, make a note of that in your notes so that you know it's a 7-day, it's a 24-hour, it's a 10-day, it's a 2-week. They are all very different. And so when you are booking that campground, you are agreeing to that cancellation and refund policy, and you always want to make sure you know what that is. Your before you book checklist. There's a short list of questions that you're going to want to make sure you have answered before you click that book button, and so I'm going to tell you what those are. Before you give them your money, you want to make sure that you are booking for the right campground in the right city. I will tell you, there are campgrounds with the exact same names in completely different states. So do a double check to make sure you're booking the right campground in the right city and the right state. You have the correct dates for when you want to arrive and when you want to depart. Make sure you have the correct type of campsite, whether it's a back-in or pull-through, as well as you have 30 watts, 50 watts, full hookups, partial hookups. You also want to make sure that your RV is going to fit. You have the correct number of guests and pets listed properly. You know what the total price is, including all of the taxes and fees. You know what the cancellation policy is, and you've made a note of it. You know what the check-in and check-out times are, and maybe make a little note if there's any special campground rules. I definitely recommend that you have all of that information for all of your campgrounds in one place. Don't try to be putting it just in emails, because emails get lost in inboxes. If you have it on your computer, or if you have the Wandering RV Companion, you've got it all written out and printed out there. It's up to you how you keep track of that, but just make sure that you really keep track of that information, because it is so easy for those emails to get lost and you to not be able to find the information that you need quickly. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions about RVing or booking campgrounds or anything like that, leave it in the comments below. I'm happy to help answer those questions for you. If you found this video helpful, clicking that thumbs up really does help get this video discovered by other people, and it helps my channel grow. And be sure to check out my entire series of RV living for beginners. I've got an entire series. This is episode number 5, and next week I'm going to be talking about campground etiquette, which is an important thing, which I think sometimes people need to know. So I've got a video about that if you have any questions about that. But I've got an entire 30-episode series for you, so make sure you click subscribe, follow along for the adventure, and I am excited to share more RV adventures with you. I'm Krista. I'm on a quest to check off 1,000 bucket list adventures. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you on the next adventure. Bye. And the best thing about RVing is the more you do it, the more experience you're gonna get. And that is a spider. Okay. Oh my God. Where are you coming from? Oh God. Oof. So many spiders. Oh, I completely forgot what I was saying. I swear every video has a spider in it. It's like they can't not be a spider in my videos. Okay, totally forgot what I was saying.